I offered my spare bedroom to my neighbor after his house flooded. 3 weeks later, he filed for residency and claimed my home was legally his. Should have read the fine print, he whispered. I was hours from homelessness when I found a clause in his lease that let me. I let my neighbor stay in my spare bedroom after his house flooded. 3 weeks later, he filed for legal residency. He whispered, should have read the fine print. This is going to sound insane, but I swear every word is true. I never thought I'd end up here, typing this out with a knot in my stomach, wondering how I got this stupidly played. I live in a 2-bedroom townhouse in Temecula, California. It's not much, but it's mine. I work from home, have a decent enough routine, and I mostly keep to myself. My neighbors and I aren't close, just passing hellos, quick chats about trash pickup or barking dogs. Nothing deep. That was especially true with Mark, the guy in Unit 3. Mark moved in about 8 months ago. Mid-30s maybe. Always polite, a little reserved. Kept to himself. We weren't friends, but I thought he was decent. Harmless. 3 weeks ago, his place flooded. Pipe burst under the sink while he was out. I saw the maintenance crew hauling out wet drywall and soaked carpets late that afternoon. I ran into Mark in the hallway. He looked completely wrecked. I mean, drenched socks, red eyes, pacing like he was about to explode. Without even thinking, I offered, hey, I've got a spare room. You can crash there till it's sorted. He hesitated. You sure? I nodded.
Yeah.
Just until they fix the place. He moved in that night with 2 garbage bags of clothes, a duffel, and his laptop. I gave him clean towels, showed him where the coffee was. That was it. I didn't write anything down.
Didn't ask for rent.
I honestly thought I was doing the right thing. The first week was fine. We mostly kept out of each other's way. He showered at night. I worked during the day. We had coffee once or twice. He was quiet, respectful. I didn't mind having someone around. It felt sort of useful, I guess. Like I was helping. Second week, things got weird. He started using the kitchen like it was his. Left his shoes in the living room. Took calls on speaker in the shared space. Still no rent. Still no groceries. I chalked it up to stress. Thought maybe I was being uptight. Then he asked super casually, so how long can I stay? Technically? I paused. I dunno. I figured just until your place is fixed. He smiled.
Right. Cool.
He said cool like he already knew something I didn't. By week 3, he started receiving mail at my address. I found the first envelope in the mailbox. A bank letter addressed to Mark Edison, my street address. My stomach dropped. I brought it inside and asked him, did you change your mailing address? He looked up from his phone. Oh, yeah, figured it was easier for now. I can switch it back later. I didn't know what to say. I just nodded. But that's when I started getting suspicious. So I went online and started researching California tenancy laws. Turns out, if someone lives at your place for 30 days or more, even without a lease, they can claim certain tenant rights. Things like requiring formal eviction. It wasn't ironclad, but it scared the hell out of me. I decided I'd ask him to move out before that 30-day mark. I even drafted a message. I never got the chance to send it. 3 days ago, I came home from a grocery run and found an envelope taped to my door. A formal letter. From the county clerk's office. Declaration of residency. Filed by Mark Edison. It claimed he had established permanent residence at my address. He cited proof of mail, established living arrangements, and mutual agreement. My heart was pounding so loud, I could barely read. I stormed into the apartment. He was sitting on the couch, legs up, flipping through channels like nothing was wrong. What is this? I asked, holding up the envelope. He looked at it, then at me.
Calm.
Way too calm.
Oh, that.
It's just paperwork. Nothing to worry about. Mark, you filed for legal residency at my home. You can't just... He didn't even look guilty. He leaned back and said, almost smugly, should have read the fine print. I didn't understand what he meant at first. What fine print? There was no lease. No agreement. I didn't sign anything. But he was right. I should have read my own lease. That night I stayed up reading every clause in the rental agreement I'd signed 3 years ago. I was looking for anything that could help. And that's when I found it. A clause near the end, in tiny text. In the event of an unauthorized occupant asserting tenancy, the leaseholder may submit a counter-declaration within 72 hours of notification, asserting sole leaseholder rights and requiring removal without court order. My hands were shaking. I had 72 hours. Mark had given me the notice 36 hours ago. I had less than 2 days before this got way more complicated. I printed the clause, called my landlord, then drove across town the next morning to file my counter-declaration at the same courthouse he used. I don't think he expected me to fight back. When I walked in that night, I didn't say anything. I just left a printed copy of my lease clause on the kitchen table.
He saw it.
Read it. His jaw clenched. You filed a counter? He asked. I nodded. He didn't say anything after that. He just walked to his room and closed the door. He hasn't spoken to me since. The next morning, I woke up to silence. Mark's door was closed, but I could feel something had shifted. You ever get that sick feeling in your gut like you're being watched, even when no one's in the room? That was me sitting on the edge of my bed, just listening. No footsteps.
No confibruin.
No fake good morning. Just air. Thick and heavy. Around noon, I checked the hallway. He was gone, but the door to the spare bedroom was wide open. At first, I thought he'd left. Maybe he realized he'd lost and decided to pack up. But then I looked closer. His stuff was still there. Not the garbage bags. Those were gone, but the dresser had clothes in it. His sneakers were by the bed. His laptop charger was plugged into the wall. It didn't look like someone who had left. It looked like someone who wanted it to seem like they had. My phone buzzed. It was an email. Subject line. Notice of hearing. Unlawful detainer counterclaim. I froze. He hadn't backed down. He'd doubled down. Mark had filed a response to my counter-declaration, claiming I had violated his tenant's right to remain undisturbed, and that he was now pursuing legal action to stay, or worse, to claim interest in the property. His claim listed verbal agreements, mutual use of property, and proof of continued occupancy. I almost laughed. Except nothing was funny anymore. He was twisting everything. The coffee we shared, the time I let him borrow my car to get groceries, even the internet password I gave him. He listed those as domestic sharing privileges. It was like he'd been building this case from day one. I called my landlord again. He was pissed but also worried. You need to get legal help, he said. This guy's done this before. That stopped me cold. What do you mean? I didn't put him in your building. He came in on a sublease deal in Unit 3. But I found out last week he's been involved in 2 tenant disputes in San Diego. One dragged on for 6 months. The pieces clicked together in my head. Mark wasn't unlucky. He wasn't desperate. He was a squatter. A manipulator. Someone who looked for people like me, soft, decent, unassuming, and moved in just enough to start pulling legal strings. I wanted to throw up. I printed every email, every photo of the spare bedroom before he moved in. Bank statements showing it was my name on the rent. I even found an old text from him that said, "Thanks again for the temp room. I owe you big." But none of it felt like enough. That night, I got home and found my door unlocked. Not open, just unlocked. Mark was inside at the table, eating cereal from my bowl, like nothing was wrong. "You changed the Wi-Fi password," he said. I didn't respond. "You're making this messy. You know that, right?"
Could have been simple.
I stared at him. "You're trespassing. You don't live here." He smirked. "Not what the paperwork says." I walked to my room, locked the door, sat on the floor, and listened to the spoon clink against the ceramic. And I realized I might be living with a predator. The next few days were a blur. He barely left the apartment. If he did, it was only for a few minutes, quick walks, short errands. But he never took all his things. That was the part that unnerved me. He wanted me to know he wasn't going anywhere. I started locking my bedroom door every time I stepped out, even just to use the bathroom. I kept my laptop and files hidden in my closet. I stopped cooking altogether, just lived off granola bars and drive-through coffee. The kitchen felt compromised, touched by someone who thought he owned it. On the third morning, I found a single piece of paper taped to my bedroom door. It was a printout of a landlord-tenant code. Section 1946.2, California Civil Code. Highlighted in yellow was the line: a tenant who has occupied a property for more than 30 days may not be removed without cause and proper notice. No note.
No signature.
Just that one clause taped like a warning. It was petty, but calculated. A reminder. That afternoon I drove to the courthouse again to submit a supplemental statement. On the way home, I parked 2 blocks away and walked just to see if he was watching. Sure enough, his silhouette was in the window. Curtains moved. He knew where I was at all times. When I got inside, I noticed something else. The spare bedroom door was now closed. I hadn't seen it shut since the day he moved in. Later that night, curiosity got the best of me. I cracked it open when he was out. Inside, it was different. There were boxes I hadn't seen before. A new lamp. Clothes neatly hung in the closet. But the part that froze me in place? A printed name label on the door. It said Edison Room 2A. Like it was an office. Like he was assigning himself a title. The next morning, my landlord called. He's filed a petition to recognize joint occupancy, he said. He's using your address as his mailing and employment base. We can challenge it, but we need documentation. He's calling it his apartment, I said quietly. I know. I've seen the filing. That night, Mark cornered me in the hallway. You ever think, he said, tone flat, maybe this isn't your place anymore? I didn't answer.
My mouth was dry.
He leaned in a little. You let me in. That's not on me. Then he stepped past me like I wasn't even there. By the end of that week, I stopped sleeping. It wasn't just stress. It was the sound of his door opening in the middle of the night. The pacing. The fridge opening. Sometimes he'd stand in the hallway, just long enough for me to hear the floor creak, and then go back to bed. Like he wanted me to know he was awake too. I started setting up my phone to record audio while I slept. I got 3 nights of weird, subtle things. Cabinets opening, drawers sliding. Once, at 3:12 a.m., I heard the click of my bedroom doorknob. It didn't open, just turned. Slowly. Then stopped. I bought a chain lock the next morning and installed it myself. That same afternoon, a letter arrived in the mail, not addressed to me. It was for him, from a legal mediation service. I didn't open it, but I looked them up. They help settle tenant disputes and property claims. Property, like ownership. It was more than just staying. He was building a narrative, slowly, carefully, and using every piece of paper to back it up. I sat down and called the service number on the letter pretending to be Mark's assistant, just to ask if they had a file on him. The woman on the phone asked, "Is this regarding the claim on the West Ridge townhome or the Riverside apartment?" I said nothing. He'd done this before, maybe more than twice. That night, I turned on every light in the apartment and waited. Around 10 p.m., Mark came home. He didn't say anything. Walked past me toward the kitchen, poured himself a glass of water. Then he looked up and said, "You called Riverside?" I froze. My phone was in my pocket. "You shouldn't do that," he said. "It messes with the process." He took a slow sip, then walked to his room. I didn't move for an hour. I knew I had less than a week before the first hearing. My landlord was doing what he could, but he couldn't evict him without a legal win. And Mark knew how to drag things out. It was his whole game: set up confusion, file claims, live rent-free for as long as possible. And every day, he got more comfortable. He started leaving keys on the table like they belonged there. Told a delivery guy his name at the door. Set up a damn desk in the corner of the living room like it was a shared workspace. The worst part? I started doubting myself. I wondered if I'd missed something, if maybe I had said something that gave him this opening. If maybe being nice had turned into some kind of binding verbal agreement I didn't realize at the time. I started writing everything down. Every interaction. Every weird comment. I took pictures of the apartment, kept receipts for everything I paid for, recorded timestamps. Because I wasn't just protecting my space anymore. I was building a case against a man who'd made a career out of erasing people like me from their own homes. The court hearing was set for Monday morning. I hadn't slept more than 2 hours in the last 3 nights. Mark, on the other hand, seemed rested. Like this was just another routine. Another run of the same script. I caught him brushing his teeth in the kitchen sink the day before court, humming like he was getting ready for brunch. I had my folder. Lease agreement, counter-declaration, utility bills in my name, even the message he sent thanking me for the temporary room. My landlord agreed to show up, and I had a notarized statement from him confirming Mark was never on the lease. It was solid. But I still didn't feel safe. That night, Sunday night, Mark didn't come home. The spare bedroom was empty. No sound, no movement. Around midnight, I checked his room. All his stuff was gone. Just like that. Drawers cleared out. Bed stripped. Trash can overturned. He had vanished.
No volví. No confrontación.
Not even a note. I should have been relieved, but it didn't feel right. Something about the timing, right before the hearing, felt like the next move in a bigger plan. I went to court, anyway. Waited for hours. Mark never showed. The judge dismissed his claim due to failure to appear and acknowledged my counter. It was over. Legally. I walked out with shaky legs and a signed court order in my hand. But when I got home, the door was cracked open. Not wide. Just a little. Like someone had left in a hurry. Or wanted me to think they had. I walked through the apartment slowly. Checked every room. Nothing. Until I opened the hall closet. There, tucked behind the vacuum and a box of Christmas lights, was a small folder. Labeled with my address. Inside, printed screenshots of my LinkedIn, my old address from 5 years ago, the name of my employer. Even a copy of my rental lease, highlighted. He had been researching me the entire time. Studying me. I stood in the hallway, folder in hand, as my stomach dropped. Mark was gone. But the damage wasn't.
He knew how to get in.
He knew what to file, what words to use, and just how long he could stay before getting pushed out. And now he had done it again.
To me.
Now I lock every door twice, even when I'm home. But it's not the locks I think about when I try to sleep. It's the way he smiled, like he'd already lived here long before I ever offered him a key.